this is on, let me clear my camera. So, so this is one of the channels that I subscribe to. I'm subscribed to this channel and I want to show you guys something. So they're talking about the Voting Rights Act. Sorry about that. I got the mic on the wrong side here. So what they're talking about here, and there's only 5 people watching, and this is going to be on this channel right here that we're on is the National Constitutional Center. And I want to show you guys something because they're running a live video. And if you notice, all the comments over here are from me. All the comments here are from me. So every comment in this section right here is I made the comment. And I want to let you listen to this.
Important a case called South Carolina v. Katzenbach, and there, in an opinion by Chief Justice Earl Warren, Warren says this is a big law. It's strong constitutional medicine, but despite that, it is constitutional and it's consistent with the powers that Congress gets through the 14th and 15th Amendments. And practically speaking, the law made a huge change. It really worked. Look, in 1960, only 20% of eligible African Americans were registered to vote. By 1971, just a little over a decade later, the number had risen to 62%. 20% to 62% in roughly a decade.
I'm going to go backwards here. I'm going to go back here because I want to show you guys something that, and the reason why I even came on here just now, to show you guys something. So I'm going to go back to where I first started commenting on this video. Let me kill the sound here so it's not so confusing. But all the comments on this, on this channel right here, on the National Constitution Center, all of them, the comments are mostly just all mine, right? And so what I'm trying to show you guys here is what we're so who were the people that enforced Plessy versus Ferguson? It was police. Plessy was bad law. We know that.
This is a huge fight that takes so many years, so many players, and so many families.
But then, okay. So this is where I really started like rocket commenting over here. And the reason why I started rocket commenting over here, and this is the reason why I just blew this live stream up right here. Right. And so when the Warren Court desegregates, and I'll turn it down so I'm not fighting for the microphone here. When the Warren Court desegregates America in 1954, who are they fighting? If the Supreme Court is the law of the land and the Warren Court, and this is on the Constitutional Center's channel over here, and the Warren Court has desegregated America, well then how come America doesn't desegregate? What's the problem? If in 1954 the supreme law of the land says that we're going to desegregate America, and this is where my comments started going crazy, who is doing this in 1957? Backlash reached crisis point in Little Rock, Arkansas. So who's doing that? I'm going to turn it down a little bit more because I don't need it. Who's doing that? Who's causing the backlash in Little Rock, Arkansas? The police are. The police are the problem. 9 black students, the Little Rock 9, attempted to enroll in White Central High School. Who stopped them? Police did. We're desegregated in 1954, but what's the problem? Police are the problem. You can't get unorganized white mobs to do what the organized police did. So Governor Orville Fabulous called out the National Guard. Why didn't he call out the state police in Arkansas? Because the state police were the actual problem. Who did the National Guard have to take on? The police. You see, since we've given police autonomy with August Vollmer's police standards in the 1930s, the police have worked against us consistently.
Eisenhower ends up defending this decision, explaining it to the nation, and then finally,
In
the Supreme Court steps in the year after to reinforce Eisenhower's actions in Cooper v. Aaron. There, the court explains to state officers and governors that they had a duty to obey orders of the Supreme Court. They may not like the orders, but in the end, they had to obey. And Curry, the big lesson here we learned.
Okay, you just heard what he said. So in case you guys don't know, Cooper versus Aaron is where the state of Arkansas outright rejects the Supreme Court holding, right? The state of Arkansas tells the Supreme Court, we're not going to allow you to desegregate. And so Cooper versus Aaron is the state of Arkansas going against the Supreme Court. Look it up. And what happens is they tell Arkansas in 1958, no, we already decided this in 1954. We are desegregated. And let me ask you a question. Does Arkansas desegregate after this case? No, they don't. And why don't they? Because of the police. The police are the ones who are an autonomous agency where they cannot desegregate. The problem is the cops. The problem is the cops. Do you understand that? Over and
over again during the civil rights movement is that the push for big change, it often requires, advocacy outside of the courts by key movement leaders.
If you guys want to join me, I'm on the National Constitution Center. My comments are here.
But also actions by elected officials, so by the President of the United States enforcing a court's decision, and by members of Congress in using the powers that Congress gets from the Reconstruction Amendments to realize their promise to pass big laws.
But does this change? Here's Cooper versus Aaron right here. Here's Cooper versus Aaron. And what this says, the governor and legislature of Arkansas openly resisted the Supreme Court's Brown versus Board of Education. In 1958, it went to the Supreme Court again in Cooper versus Aaron. And who are the people fighting? That's what I want to ask you guys. Who are the people fighting? They're fighting the cops. It's so annoying. It's so annoying. American Nomad, don't be offended. If you identify yourself as a cop and say that you're going to follow police procedure, brother, quit being a cop and we can talk. But until then, we can't, dude. I don't like cops. I'm sorry. It just sucks. So now, what is the Montgomery bus boycott of 1955? What is this? Who's doing this? The police. That's what I'm trying to say. And who attacked the people on the Montgomery bus boycott? Who were the people attacking black people? Cops. It was cops. Throughout the history of our country, the problem has been giving cops autonomy without checks and balances on policing power. I'm on the National Constitutional Center channel if you guys want to join me. It's pretty much all the comments on here are mine because it pisses me off that
challenge desegregated buses in Montgomery, Alabama. Montgomery is one of the most segregated cities in the entire nation.
Okay, so he's talking about how they're doing this big boycott of the Montgomery Bus Corporation and they're fighting back as hard as they can. Who are they fighting? They're fighting the police. That's what's happening in Montgomery. They're not fight. You can fight the regular citizens, but they don't have shortwave radios and a central command center and a monopoly on violence. The Montgomery bus boycott is about cops fighting black people who don't want to be segregated anymore. Why don't we talk about that? Why doesn't this guy, who's far smarter than me, I'm sure, why doesn't he say the problem in our country throughout the 60s was the police? The police are the ones who are doing this. We have a problem because the police won't follow Brown versus Board of Education. We have a problem. The Montgomery bus boycott is enforced by who? The police. The police will beat and hurt black people if they take an alternative bus. And there was, just so you know, I've researched this to the bone, there was an alternative black bus company. And if you talk to black people who are lost, they will tell you that the Montgomery bus boycott, when we broke the Montgomery bus boycott, we ruined black businesses that have been created for an alternative busing system. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Boycott the bus system. And you're right, Curry. It's not just they boycotted it for a day or a week or a couple weeks. It's for over a year. People had to walk from their houses to the stores, to their work, to school. It was their primary mode of transportation. And so it's a great personal sacrifice that they pushed for change in their own community.
And next, we talk about the sit-in movement, which diving deep into that, like looking at the 4 students who are in a college very close to this lunch counter, and said we can't sit around anymore. They're 18 and 19-year-olds.
Okay, so you have 18 and 19-year-olds doing sit-ins in the 60s. But the law of the land is the 1954 law of Brown versus Board of Education that says black folks can eat at any restaurant they want. So who are the people arresting, hurting, torturing, and killing the black people? It is police. Police have been our problem since their inception, and August Vollmer's 1933 handbook on professionalizing policing is what has ruined our country. And these people who are far smarter than me, I'm just a YouTube genius, Google Internet from the University of Google. I learned all this stuff on my own. And so these people are not pointing out that the sit-in is against cops. These people are battling cops. That's what's happening. They won't follow the law of the land. Who won't follow the law of the land? The police claim to be the law, not the Supreme Court, not the Constitution, not the Bill of Rights. These people are battling cops. That's who they're battling. The sit-ins are against cops. The Freedom Riders are against cops.
And they leave their college dorm and they go to the counter and they sit down and they refuse to move, putting themselves in harm's way. And this spreads across the sit-in movement and moves people forward and saying each of us can take steps to do this. And Patricia points out in the chat that...
And who's going to attack them and hurt them? The police. Who's going to arrest them? The police. Even though America's been desegregated.
This action by these African-American students makes change for everyone. It rises all boats in all communities, white, black. Colin pointed out...
It's so funny. There's 100 people here. There's one person. I'm the only person watching this. I'm the only one watching. It's crazy.
Yes, this is another classic example of nonviolent direct action. It emerges in 1960, beginning in Greensboro, North Carolina. It spreads to other big cities like Nashville, Atlanta, and as part of the sit-in movement, student activists. And again, Curry, these are young students. The amount of courage it takes to do this is just like, it's mind-boggling. It's inspiring. And so student activists enter a segregated public place like a grocery counter like you see here. They sit in the whites-only area, and then they remain seated, even as white mobs surround them, even as those mobs threaten them, harass them, physically assault them.
Right, but the white mobs cannot take them to a freaking dungeon and charge them with crimes. Do you not freaking understand what the problem is? The problem is cops. They're the problem. The white mobs are harassing them. The white racists are being mean to them. I understand that. Racism was a big thing. But the only people who can organize against these folks are the cops using the court system. Why doesn't he say that, the guy who's smarter than me? This guy who knows more information than me? Why doesn't he say police are doing this to people?
And the idea here through nonviolent direct action is that you don't respond with violence. Instead, you violate the law, you respond to the violence with peace, and what it's meant to do is expose the amount of coercion that's meant to enforce unjust Jim Crow laws, and it's meant to show that you are, you're on the side of good, and the people and the violent ones are on the side of constitutional evil.
Okay, so then who's on the side of evil? Police are. He just said it, but he won't point out who's doing the evil. It's so frustrating. It's the reason why my comments are over here so much, because it's so frustrating. I'm trying to explain to this man. You can clearly see that who's against the constitutional evil? The police. They're the ones doing it.
Of Americans nationwide, and many white Americans see these images and they express horror. And it begins, all of these actions are part of a larger strategy to reshape public opinion more broadly.
Okay, and they see the horrors of what? What the cops are doing to people. And what's banned on YouTube today? The reality of what cops do. I've had more videos. You guys have no idea how many videos I've posted that don't go through because you're not allowed to show what the police do to people. So who's on the side of constitutional evil? The cops are, but he never points it out through the whole video. He never once says the cops are the problem. The cops are the evildoers. He doesn't say it.
So that even many white Americans who may have been either lukewarm or even against the push for civil rights reform become more sympathetic as they see these images of violence and lawlessness.
And I think it is fascinating to realize this is the same time period that TVs are becoming common in people's homes. Not like super common, but like somebody in your neighborhood would probably have a TV. So this is all like layering into this moment in time.
It's so funny. Here's the blind spot in America. You can see the cops are doing this to people in 1961 after Brown versus Board of Education. The fight for racial equality, but they're not pointing out who's doing it. Who is causing this? Police. Jesus frickin' Christ. It is so annoying to me. They're sitting here showing photographs of tyranny, and they're not saying the cops are the problem in America. They continue to be the problem in America. They keep on skipping it. They're showing what's going on. They're saying what the black people are doing. White America's sick of seeing it. Who's doing it? Sick of seeing what? They're sick of seeing the cops brutalize, murder, rape, and kill people on camera. And this is in the 60s where not everybody even has a TV. That's how much bloodshed's going on.
So we go to the Children's March next, and again, when we think about this, and I try to pull these images so you could see how little these kids are at this march, because you're amazed at their heroism, and then you cry that that child had to do this to make our country live up to its ideals. But these are young children because their parents are in jail, because their parents are losing their jobs and have to work. The Children's March begins, and they are turned on with fire hoses.
Okay, stop. Who turned the fire hoses on them? Who turned the dogs on them? Why can't people just fricking say it? We have a police problem in America that continues today. Why doesn't she say the Children's March, because the parents are in jail, and the Freedom Riders, and they're trying to do a Children's March of 63, and then she says the hoses are turned on them, and the dogs are turned on them. Who's turning the hoses and the dogs on those human people, on those children during the Children's March of 63? Honey, say it. Say who's doing it. Point out who's doing the tyranny. Remember, we've been desegregated for 9 years now, but it looks like segregation's still going on. Who is perpetuating segregation in America? Cops. There's the pictures of them. Why don't you mention them? These people are the problem. They are the problem in our country today. And it's because of, I don't want to call her names.
There's also this image of this young marcher right here, and if there isn't a stronger visual of a powerful child making change walking
oh my God.
Visual of a powerful child making
listen to this twit.
But there's also this image of this young marcher right here, and if there isn't a stronger visual of a powerful child making change walking up to that dog who's about to attack her.
Okay. Sorry, honey, you lost all respect. If there's not a more powerful image of police putting tyranny on the freedom of Americans, that's what the line should be, babe. That's what the line. I really like this channel. I really like the Constitutional Law Center, the National Constitutional Center. I like your channel. What I don't like is this is not a powerful image of a child. This is a powerful image showing that police are the tyranny in our country. They continue to be. They continue to make sure that they're not following the rule of law. Had these simple cops followed the 1954 desegregation order of Brown versus Board of Education, there would not be dogs in the streets. There would not be fire hoses in the streets. Their parents wouldn't have been arrested. There wouldn't be a children's march. The problem was the cops. The problem continues to be the cops in America.
And saying, oh no,
My hands are shaking. I'm getting pissed off.
So tell us about the Children's March and then, the powerful words of MLK.
Yeah, so this is a mass demonstration in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963. And I think, again, you're right, Corey, that the things that are notable here on the one hand, the courage of the children that are marching and the other civil rights activists that are there, counterpoised with the violence that we see from the local authorities there in Birmingham, Alabama.
The local authorities.
The city's police commissioner orders the city's police to meet the marchers with violent force. So we see stalling dogs, which you can see in the image there, cattle prods, fire hoses, just brutal, brutal violence. And it's, again, caught on television cameras, caught through photographs and telecast throughout the United States. Many white Americans are appalled. Growing out of this activism in Birmingham, Alabama, we also get one of the great works in American political thought, one of the great works in all of American history, authored by Dr. Martin Luther King, who's arrested as part of the activities in Birmingham, and he writes his famous letter from a Birmingham.
Who arrested him? Who put him in the dungeon? The cops did. He actually mentions the police are meant to meet with those people. They talk about the valor of the children and what an amazing speech MLK Jr. writes from prison. He doesn't point out that the police are not following the law of the land. Point it out, brother. You are smarter than me. You're classically educated. I'm literally a Neanderthal who educated himself. You are smart. I'm not as smart as you. Point out what happened, the reason why this man is in a dungeon because of the cops.
Jail. His audience there, interesting, is he's writing to white moderate ministers. And so the white moderate ministers look to Dr. King and they criticize him and the civil rights movement, saying, aren't you going a little too far? Every time you bring your protest, it brings violence and disorder. Don't you need to cool down? And Dr. King explains in return that really the only way we're going to make progress, what we learn over time, oppressors will only give up power when they're challenged. And what Dr. King teaches in the letter from a Birmingham jail is that we're going to use nonviolent direct action. We're going to violate unjust laws lovingly, openly. We're going to take the consequences. But in the end, through that, expose their injustice and hopefully change hearts and minds and make America better.
And I know we're fast forwarding now pretty quickly into these unbelievable moments, but that leads us to the March on Washington, which is the largest. Okay,
and why is there a March on Washington? Because the police are ruining our country. Because the police won't do the simple basics of following the rule of law. Why is there a March on Washington? Because police are the problem in our country. Because the police are doing this. Why don't they say where the problem came from? It came from cops. Cops have been our problem. Cops are our problem today. Having an autonomous agency that has a monopoly on power is the problem in the United States of America. That's why this March on Washington happened in 1963. Why don't they point it out? You're smarter than me, babe. Why don't you point it out? It's just like Obama. People say, why do you hate Obama so much? He was the president of the Harvard Law Review, and you met me and I told you about Terry versus Ohio. Obama knew about Terry versus Ohio better than I do. He's smarter than I am.
Largest march and peaceful march on Washington up until this moment in America. It's something like 750,000 people march on Washington. And then we lead to the I Have a Dream speech on that day that moved, powerful movement. John Lewis speaks on that day as well. And that brings us to Congress finally utilizing that power that it is given in the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment to make law to enforce the equality and the voting rights for at least African-American males, but African-American women as well after the 19th. So could you talk to us a little bit about the Civil Rights Act?
I can tell you about it. So in 1963, John F. Kennedy writes the Civil Rights Act, in case you guys didn't know. When he writes the Civil Rights Act and he circulates that amongst the different government agencies and different congressmen, he's then assassinated. He's killed before he can sign the Civil Rights Act. And the people who murder him believe that Johnson won't sign the Civil Rights Act, that he doesn't have the same cojones that JFK does. However, Johnson lets them down and he signs a Civil Rights Act. And that is going to end the 10 years of absolute direct tyranny from police in our country, because then at that point, they're going to have to enforce desegregation. And what they're going to do instead is arrest as many black people as they can. That's what's going to happen. And it's all done by police. Our entire country being in disarray is done by police. That's how it works. That's how it works. That's how it works. So, you know, I've been working hard for the past 3 days now, I guess. I've been working hard for the last 3 days just getting that video done, because I have to make sure that as many people as possible end up with the right documentation. I haven't created a free code for the trifold yet, but I'll do that today so that some people who don't have any money can get the trifold printed out at home and then keep it in their car. And then I don't want you guys to be me. I don't want you to speak to police. I don't want you to have a back and forth. I don't want you to challenge them, because I don't want you to go to jail or be hurt or beat up. I want you to use the trifold. That's what I'd like you to do. So that's just where I'm at. And so obviously I haven't shaven in a few days. I haven't showered. I got to shower and shave, and I got a funeral tomorrow for my grandma. So I got to go to the funeral tomorrow. I'm not looking forward to that. It's going to be tough. But, you know, I just wanted to jump on here for a moment. When you listen to the Constitutional Channel, I think the name of that channel is the National Constitution Center, the National Constitution Center. They gloss over that the entire problem in our country is an autonomous policing agency without checks and balances on power. Because if there was a third-party agency when those cops didn't enforce desegregation, that third-party agency would start to arrest police who were breaking the law. We're finally at a place with the digital era where we can make the Bill of Rights and the constitutional standards come to truth, come to reality, and it's because of the camera. It's because of the camera, because we can see now if your rights are violated. You guys watched that court case. You saw how many times the judge violated my rights. They don't want us to see that. The camera, and by the way, the new party that I've written, it demands because we go into power. Okay, how many times have you heard me say, don't say demands because I don't want to hear it? Power does not cede power to the lesser power. When I say we demand that we can record all state and federal trials, all state and federal hearings in a court of law, we can live stream that ourselves because it's our hearing. When I say demand using a political party, that comes from a place of power, not asking. We have become the political power. We want transparency throughout our government. We want transparency throughout the courts. That's what we want. That's what we're asking for. And we're not asking anymore because we are the political party coming to power. We need a third party. So just so you guys know, let me give you a real quick checkup here. Judges get immunity, legislators get immunity in 1951. Police and prosecutors are going to get immunity in 1967 with Pearson versus Ray. So that means the legislator who writes the law, the judge who sentences you, the prosecutor who prosecutes you, and the cop who arrests you all have immunity if they've done you wrong. What do you think's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen when you give every single person who has the power to punish you, who has the power to charge you, who has the power to arrest you? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think? Let me tell you what's going to happen. When you give prosecutors immunity, and you give legislators immunity, and you give judges immunity, and you give cops immunity, this is what's going to happen to your prison system. There it is. There it is. You don't got to be a con law scholar. You don't got to be a frickin' genius. When you give legislators, judges, prosecutors, and cops immunity, this is the result. And the highlighter party, what we're going to do is we're going to remove that qualified immunity. Legislators, and I will be a legislator, I will not use qualified immunity. If I write unconstitutional law, I need to be held accountable for that. This is what happens when you have immunity for judges, legislators, prosecutors, and cops. There it is. There it is. Right there. You don't got to be a rocket scientist to take a look at a graphic. You don't have to be a frickin' genius. And the reason why it makes me so mad is because they locked up my dad for 20 years. 20 years and just help you out. People in America want cocaine. People in America want heroin. People in America want Adderall. People in America want drugs. People in America want to smoke marijuana. That's what people in America want. Sorry if you don't like it, go take a hike. Your son, your daughter, your best friend, your lover wants to do cocaine. Sorry, you don't like it? Too bad. Just be honest. Just be honest. We gave legislators, prosecutors, judges, and cops immunity, and there's the prison system afterwards. That's what happened. How come that is? Because whoever prosecutes these people can't get in any trouble. The legislator who writes the bullshit law, the judge who enforces it, the prosecutor who prosecutes it, and the cop who arrests you, none of them can get in trouble. And there's the result. Let me ask you guys a question. You guys heard that judge break the law with me, what, 20 times? 20 times? She didn't give me due process of law. What's my recourse? What's my recourse? What's my recourse for the judge in Tempe who completely, she wasn't even a judge, she was a lawyer who stepped in. What's my recourse? Oh, I have to appeal to the Arizona Supreme Court? I have to file a complaint against the judge who has total immunity? What do you think's going to happen? When you give everybody immunity that can put you in a dungeon, then we just get a huge dungeon system, and the people who do it get fat and rich, and they just keep creating more legislation that protects them. And you wonder what happened in our country? You wonder why things went to such dog shit? You wonder why things are so shitty in our country? Why is it so shitty? Because the powers that be refuse to point out that the problem in our country is, number one, cops. Number two, the Supreme Court. What happened in America? We gave everybody who's in charge immunity. Everybody got immunity. Tenney versus Brandoff gave legislators and judges immunity. And then Pearson versus Ray gave prosecutors and cops immunity. And everybody hates qualified immunity, right? Well, the immunity starts with the legislator. So when I become a legislator, which I'm 100% never stopping until I get into executive power to change this dog shit system. Why do we have a lynching graph? We have a lynching graph on this chart because the Supreme Court said that they couldn't uphold your constitutional rights in Cruikshank. That's what happened. That's literally what happened. That's what happened, and why we have a lynching graph because of Cruikshank versus the United States. When the Supreme Court said that you didn't have constitutional rights that could be protected by the federal government, the exact result of that was a lynching graph that lasted for decades and decades, almost a century. And so I've been working hard for the past 3 days just trying to get that, because as I travel across the country, I have to make sure that I set myself up to continue to go into city and state and help people who've been just absolutely cheated by this system, that the problem is the cops and the problem is the prosecutors, and there's no checks and balances and they're immune from prosecution. That's why we have this. That's why we're living like this. That's why our country's like this right now. That's why we're like that. That's why there's that many people living in a dungeon. We gave everybody immunity. And so, you know what? And by the way, Rich's video, I broke down Rich's video, the broker, yesterday. I sent him a copy of it. I highlighted it. I changed the imaging. I changed the contrast. I zoomed into places. Rich's video, the real estate guy who got beat up by the cops, you clearly see him talking to the cops, and then they just start to beat him up, right? And then he gets charged with multiple felonies. He gets charged with a felony, assaulting a police officer, when he's literally being pushed back and puts his hands in the air, and then they jump on top of him. And I wrestled in high school, elementary school, junior high school, college. I wrestled all the way into I still wrestle, right? And what the cop does to Rich, he gets on top of him, takes his elbow, and just grinds in the back of his head as he's pushing his forehead into the ground. You can hear Rich scream, my glasses, because his glasses are like $900. My glasses are $60 or $80. If I ruin these, I'll be devastated because I need new glasses. The lenses are decent and I can see because I have bad eyes. And the cop, when you watch Rich get beat up, they jump on top of him, they take his elbow. And just so you know, in wrestling, if you're a wrestler or a fighter, you know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. When you hold another man down and he can't get up and he's exhausted, what we do to that guy, just so you know, wrestling and fighting isn't a patty cake sport. We're not playing, My Lucky Pony here. Wrestling and fighting is a brutal sport. And so when you hold a man down, when you wrestle him, if he doesn't get up because he's too tired or he's struggling, you take your elbow and you stick it in the back of his head and you just grind his head into the mat. But what they did to Rich is he was on the gravel, on the concrete. He told me the story that he could hear his forehead being ground into the gravel. And it's on video. The cop's on top of him. You can see him doing exactly what I'm telling you. The cop gets on Rich's back, who hasn't assaulted anybody, who hasn't hurt anybody. They're not calling about him. He wasn't a perpetrator of a crime. He just told the cops, get away from here. You're on my property. The cops went on his property, attacked him, take their elbow and grind his. You can literally see the cop grinding his elbow into the back of Rich's head. You can see his face getting ground into the concrete. And then they charge him with a felony, and now he has to press a civil rights lawsuit when if we simply had someone standing there with a camera for checks and balances that was on the opposite team of the cops, we wouldn't need a federal trial. We could just simply fire the cop, and then Rich wouldn't need to sue because he got the bad cop off the force. They would have to pay for his broken bones. They broke his bones. They broke his bones. Do you understand that? Rich was standing in front of his property. He saw a cop pull someone over, went out there and said, can you move your car away from my property? They said, no, F you. They jumped him, beat him up, broke his bones, and charged him with a felony. That's Rich's story. It's coming up. Rich's story is coming up. We're going to go through a couple processes here to make sure he gets his civil litigation filed properly before we expose his story, but I already have the video. I already lightened it yesterday. I already showed that the cops clearly just attack him. They just attack him. And in America, it goes all the way back here. Look, all these people right here, just in case you guys didn't know, all these people on your poster, I gave away hundreds and hundreds of posters. You should have one by now. It's on DeleteLawZ.com. Go to DeleteLawZ, get a copy of my poster. That's how you can support me. Get my trifold. I appreciate it. Okay? All these people right here, almost every person here that's a hero of the civil rights movement was killed by a cop or a government legislator. All of them. Almost all of them on this poster were killed by a cop or a government legislator. And you wonder why we gave legislators immunity in 1951. Why did we give prosecutors immunity? Why did we give cops immunity? Because they were killing people. They were killing people. That's why. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. What's wrong with our country? We're giving the people who are supposed to take care of us immunity to kill us. That's what's going on. You're giving the people who we pay and elect to protect us a license to murder us. A license to murder us. And you wonder why the prison system looks like this. You wonder why it says overturn Terry versus Ohio on the poster. Because this is the linchpin of death. This is the linchpin of murder. This is the linchpin of ending all civil rights. You don't have any rights because of Terry versus Ohio. If I gave you a free poster, which I gave hundreds away, I want to see it printed out on your wall. I want to see a picture of it. I gave away hundreds and hundreds of these. I cut my own income for a month to give away hundreds of these. I want to see this printed out on your wall. That's my payment. That's what I'll take back in payment. I want to see it printed out on your wall. That's what I want to see. I want to see this poster on your wall. Okay, that's what I'd like. That's what I'd like. So that's where we are. That's where we are. And then you have channels like the Constitutional Center who will give this long dissertation on history, which Constitutional Center, thank you so much. I really love the history lesson. I love learning anything I can learn that's new. Even a tidbit of history that I didn't know before, I love learning today. I love learning it. I don't care what it is. It could be the Giles case, Jackson Giles versus Teasley, Jackson Giles versus Harris, 1903, 1904. Yeah. Giles versus Teasley, Giles versus Harris, Jackson Giles. I watch Jackson versus Giles and I learn something new every time someone talks about it. Every time someone talks about the Giles case. So that's where we are. We're in a tyrannical state because we have a Supreme Court that's not elected. We have a Supreme Court that works against the Bill of Rights, that works against your constitutional rights. They're elected by the Chamber of Commerce. They're appointed by big business, by elitism, by the Bilderberg Group, by the richest group, by Apple, by Facebook. They decide who's going to be appointed to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court works against the people. So what that means is that we can petition Congress to pass legislation. The executive can then sign that legislation into law, and then the Supreme Court can override it. People we don't elect, 9 people appointed for life. And there's your problem. There's your problem right there. Just right there. Okay? Okay. There it is. There it is. There it is. I mean, it lays out right here. It lays out. It lays out. I mean, I'm going to do another lecture tomorrow on this. I got to go to Grandma's funeral tomorrow. So you guys do me a favor. If you want to support what I'm doing, go to DeleteLawZ, get my poster, get my ebook, get my trifold. I want you to have the trifold in your car so you can use it. These are my cup of coffee funds. I am out of coffee. So if you guys want to feel so inclined to pick me up a cup of coffee, those are my cup of coffee funds right there. There they are. There it is. Great. 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 That'd be great. A cup of coffee would be great. All right. I got to shave. I have been sitting behind a computer for 3 days getting that trifold video done because I know as I travel through the South, I'm going to have to make sure that I continue to promote stuff. And I hate doing it, but I'm not going to be able to ever stop promoting stuff because I'm going to run for governor and I'm going to have to continue to sell people, you know, get my products so I can keep running for governor because this won't stop until one of us is in leadership. And when I mean one of us, I mean someone who's just like me, who's principled, who won't be bought. I don't give a damn how much money you have. I got people who are living in prisons. You can't buy me, mofo. I don't care how much money you got. Don't give a shite about your money. I care about the American standard of liberty and freedom and peace. And, you know, we celebrate FDR, but he's the only guy who put concentration camps in the United States of America. It's like we have this system, and this is in all the commissions, the Seabury, the Wickersham, the Knapp, the Mullen Commission, that the police are more afraid of the image of impropriety, the image of lacking integrity than they're actually worried about the lack of integrity in policing. And so it just absolutely, oh, X Factor, I still haven't got that damn envelope in the mail. Let me get that envelope in the mail for X Factor. Let me get that envelope in the mail for X Factor. So sorry, X Factor. I said I was going to put that in the mail on Monday. I'm putting it in the mail today. All right, guys. I've got about 7 or 8 sweatshirts left total. I've got, I don't know, the count on the computer's not right. So I got to do some inventory and get some stuff done here because I got to go to my grandma's funeral tomorrow. So I'm going to do that. All right. Nothing but love for you guys. X Factor Laws here, you guys. X Factor, great guy. So I got to get the flock out of here. I got to go. I won't stop. Good to see you, Workline. TACCoin's coming, man. We're a little bit delayed on TACCoin, but only because the lead technician is going through some stuff, going through a divorce. And so, you know, it's kind of heavy. So anyway, I'm going to jump, guys. Thanks for letting me watch. Thanks for letting me talk. I appreciate it. You guys get my poster, get my ebook, get the trifold in your car. I'm going to have a free code for that by the end of the day. For those of you guys who are on a fixed income, I'm going to have the trifold downloadable for you for free today. I'll have a free code for you guys today. About 10 people have contacted me about a free trifold. I'm going to get you a free download for the trifold today. So you can just print it out at your local Kinko's or wherever, and it doesn't have to be in color. It can be in black and white. And so I'm going to get those for people who are on a fixed income. So send me an email again. If you already sent me one, send me another email. I get 100 emails a day. So send me another email if you want a free trifold. For those of you who can afford to buy it, buy it. Buy it. That's what I need you to do. Okay. God bless you guys. God bless the United States of America. Thanks for letting me talk. I appreciate it. Appreciate the time and the space. I got to get out of here. All right. See you guys.